Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey.
You ever seen are we good? You ever seen what's the name of it? We Need to Talk About Kevin?
Yes.
Would you consider that a horror? I got in an argument with my dad the other day about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty liberal with my definition of horror. I mean, the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I mean, it's so bleak, it's so dark, like it's horrific.
It's
you know,
super horrific.
It might not be it might not be scary in the traditional sense, but it's dark.
Yeah, because it's on the list of like best horrors, you know what I mean? So I hadn't seen it, and I love Tilda Swinton and John C. Reilly, so I threw it on, and I was watching it at the gym on the Stairmaster, and I was like, I'm not scared, like I'm sad right now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm scared, but like this isn't like
in a different kind of way.
Exactly. I like to watch something like the Toxic Avenger or something like just
get you pumped
gore.
up. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. What's the last like good movie you've seen?
Honestly, we're talking about it off air, but it's Y2K. Went to it's in theaters now, but went to an advanced screening a couple weeks ago, and I enjoyed it immensely. Super fun, heartfelt.
You threw the advanced screening?
I was like a sponsor of it.
How'd you get into all that? Like doing all these events and everything?
Yeah, so I started Broke Horror Fan. I wrote for a bunch of horror websites like throughout when I started in high school, when my horror fandom came to be. Wrote for a bunch of horror websites when I was not at all a good writer, and kind of honed my skills. And eventually just kind of got tired of the news cycle of it all. Everyone was just like chasing news. If you're not first, you're last kind of thing. And wanted to just branch out and do my own thing. And I had like blogs in the past, but I wanted to get away from like news and find my own niche. So Broke Horror Fan was born out of my love of physical media and collectibles and stuff like that. So that was 2014 when I launched that. And with it came social media. Twitter at the time was the big social media. And I grew like a decent sized following on there, and started to get recognition from studios would send me screeners and stuff like that. And eventually I got somebody came in contact with me. They're it's like a PR agency who works with the studios, so they'll book an advanced screening in we're in Boston area, so they do Boston, but they have like satellite offices in a bunch of major areas, like major cities. So usually, not every movie, but a lot of movies, like maybe a week before they're out, or sometimes like 4 days before they're out, they'll do like an advanced screening, what they call word of mouth screening, just to build buzz. So they'll book it'll be like a Monday night at 7:00. You'll see a free movie. They won't be out till Friday. And they'll partner with local, whether there's radio stations or like local cable stations, and then a lot of like websites or influencers and that kind of stuff. So I sponsor most of their horror screenings.
I saw that on your website, that all the past ones, and I hope people listening go to them, because I'm not like in the world. I'm like a passive fan who's trying to just like understand it more, and I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, that's awesome. You had
it's weird because if you're not in the city and you're not following sites like mine, you would never know they exist, because it's not like there's like test screenings, which is like if you're out in LA or sometimes in a random Midwest town, they'll like test a new movie, but this is like the movie's done, it's ready to come out. They just want buzz about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's super cool. I've seen a lot of stuff. And what's good about it is, I mean, it's free, so it's always a packed theater, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. Because sometimes people don't really know exactly what they're seeing. They're just like, oh, I got a free pass from the local radio station or whatever. I'm going to go.
But has anything ever turned out like bad? Like someone was really unhappy about what they went to see?
There's been like I don't want to. I don't like to speak negatively about movies. It's so hard to get a movie made. But I will say, there was this movie called The Bye Bye Man. That was like, I don't know, maybe when that came out, even like 8 or 9 years ago. It's already not a great title. Also, not the best movie. And I remember people like actively like yelling at the screen because it was. I don't know, like Not that people had particularly high expectations going into it, but just like, I don't know, that one sticks out in my mind. But usually because it's free, people are like pretty understanding.
And are the directors usually there or no?
No, that's like a pretty rare. It was awesome because the Y2K screening I mentioned.
Okay.
Kyle Mooney was there, and his co-writer. That was really cool. Every once in a while, they'll have somebody who's like in town doing press, and they'll introduce or do a Q&A. But 9 times out of, or more than that, 99 times out of 100, it's just the screening.
That because as a comedian, I've been booed once in my whole career.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was in a theater though, so it was bad. But
You really
anyway, I'm like, no one but like, I couldn't imagine being a director watching like people chirp your movie,
Yeah.
being like, this shit sucks.
Yeah,
Like,
I think if they're doing a press tour where a director's attending screenings, like they have to have confidence in the movie that it's not going to get shit on, you know.
But there was never any like, they say about like the Terrifiers, the like throwing up or you never saw any of that at any screenings or people getting all
No, nothing
out?
nothing that extreme. There was one. This is before I was sponsoring them. I was just a horror fan attending. I went to a screening of the remake of Friday the 13th, 2009. I was in college, super big horror fan, love Friday the 13th. That's like one of the movies that got me into horror. And I brought this girl who I was friends with from college, and she was like, enjoys movies, but not like a movie buff and not a horror fan. And she got so like worked up about it. And it's like it's a Friday the 13th movie. It's like intense for a Friday the 13th movie.
Did she know?
I mean, she knew she knew like Jason, pop culture. I don't think she ever seen them, but it was so tense. She like had tears in her eyes during one part. But like it's kind of like now I look back on it. It's funny, but also fondly, like, I don't know, it's like a dumb Friday the 13th movie, but also like the power of cinema, I don't know, it's like a cool, dumb anecdote I enjoy.
That is fun. And you want to enjoy it too, but you have to like...
Yeah.
I remember I was on a first date when X came out.
Oh, yeah.
And we didn't know, we just went in blind to a horror movie, and then we were like, you better buckle up. And,
yeah, that's a good one.
That's a great one. Did you like Maxine?
I have not watched Maxine or Pearl yet.
You haven't watched Pearl?
No. So I was waiting. I know.
It's over.
So I saw X at one of the advanced screenings, and like at the end, there's a trailer for Pearl. I was like, oh, that's sick that they already have it shot. Like it's gonna come out later this year. And I really liked X. I just one of those things I never got around to it. But it's gonna happen soon now that we've had this going. Now that I'm on record.
What's your favorite way to see a movie in theater? You were talking about like a sold out theater. Like, do you like that? Do you like a 2 or 3 people? Do you like one there and you're in the theater? Like
one or the other. The worst is like a half full theater of people who like don't really care. I love what is usually like a private screen. There's a handful of people there. No one yelling at the screen, no one on their phone. The good thing about those advanced screenings is they're usually pretty diligent about people not being on their phone. That's a big pet peeve of mine if I'm paying whatever $15, $20 to see a movie I want.
Will you say something to someone if they're on their phone?
No, I don't have the balls to do that. I will side eye them really hard.
You'll do a loud sigh.
Yeah.
What's going on?
But no, I don't. I'm not. I'll avoid confrontation at all costs. But no, yeah, some of those like big full screenings are the best when people are really into it. When it's like something that's highly anticipated and turns out to be pretty good, like X. That screening was really fun because Ty West had a bit of a following, but this was like his first, one of his first big wide releases. So people had like an idea what they were in for, and then like it still just kind of blew the roof off the house.
I want to go to those. I want to find, because I'll find these weird indie movies that I just want to talk to. Like, I want to go to a screening of, all right, like today I watched a movie called Butt Boy.
Oh, I've seen Butt Boy. Yeah.
I just want, like, I mean, we can talk about Butt Boy, but like, I just want to see that in a screening and see how other people react to it, because I've always lived in small towns, so I've never been in a theater with more than like 10 people.
Yeah.
Like, truly.
Well, film festivals are your friend. That's where you're going to see stuff like Butt Boy, because that probably didn't play many theaters.
What'd you think of it?
It's like fun. I mean, for what it is, it's fun. For a movie called Butt Boy, it delivers on the premise. There is a butt boy.
Yeah. So you like, how do you feel about an empty theater? Do you like that?
Yeah, I mean, then it's just, I mean, in a perfect world, like I said, it would either be chock full of people who like really want to be there and love movies, or no one else there but me and whoever I'm with. Because like, I don't know. I don't want to hear people's like side conversation or like whatever chomping on popcorn.
Do you like the theater experience?
Yes, but I'm a bit of a homebody. I have a good setup at my house, so like if I have the option simultaneously, which they did, during the pandemic, sometimes they'll have like in theaters and at home. I'll usually opt for at home, but then there'll be stuff like not even a movie that I expect to be good, but something that I wanted, like the Godzilla versus Kong or whatever. It's like I know that's not going to be high art, but I also know it's going to look dope on a big screen.
Yeah.
And like be fun with an audience. So like stuff like that, or like even like I haven't cared about Marvel since like Endgame, but like a big event movie like that is like fun to see with an audience on a big screen. But some horror I find plays better at home.
Really? I feel like I can't get scared.
Yeah,
at my
well,
house.
it really depends. Again, it's because of distractions. If there's people like talking or whatever, and I'm whatever vibing with it or like into the atmosphere, yeah. I'll get distracted and then like kind of like lose that suspense or whatever they've built. But again, if it's like more of a fun style horror movie, that's awesome with an audience.
What you were talking before in high school, you started writing about it. What was your introduction into horror?
It was actually Freddy vs. Jason. That was 2003. I was 10. No, that's not math. It's not right at all. I was 14. I don't know where that came from.
You said that with confidence.
Yeah, I really did. Yeah. Anyway, I can do math. I was 14. I like knew of Freddy and Jason as characters, through pop culture. You couldn't like not, even though neither of them had big successes in the 90s when I was growing up. But I was like interested in the concept, and then also it had a soundtrack that was very it was like nu metal and like metalcore, it was like Slipknot and like Killswitch Engage, which was like two of my favorite bands at that time. So that really psyched me on it, and I was like, I want to see this. I don't have the time or the money to rent all 17 movies that make up the franchises to get to Freddy vs. Jason. I was like, I can probably get away with just watching the first one of each, right? Like how much? A couple of killers. How much can it be? And like Nightmare, that's relatively true, but I don't know. Friday the 13th, Jason's not in it. He's in there for the last second, but it's like there's no hockey masters, no. So I was like, oh, I'm an idiot.
Where's his mom?
Yeah. So I did end up eventually seeing the rest of them and loved them. But no, Freddy vs. Jason, I still have I recognize it's a super flawed movie, but I see it through like rose-colored glasses. It's like that was the movie that like made me the nerd I am today. And I'd seen like a handful of other horror movies before that, but that was the one that I was like full bore. I was like, okay, now we need to watch. I watched all their Freddy and Jason. Now we got to do Michael. Now we got, I just kind of went down the rabbit hole
that movie
I'm still doing.
Was your family cool with it? Was your family like a horror?
No, not at all. But they were cool with it. I remember my dad took me to, because I was, like I said, 14 at the time, so I couldn't buy a ticket to R-rated movies. So like my dad took me to stuff like Saw and Land of the Dead, and like he didn't care about it, but he would come and he would be cool about it.
Yeah. My dad has the same type of horror taste in me, so I think that's why.
Oh, that's good.
It's good, yeah.
like a bonding thing.
For his birthday, his birthday was on the Terrifier 3 opening.
Oh, nice.
So we got to do the double feature,
yeah.
2 and 3, which I kind of wish they did 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, it's a rights thing because the first one is owned by a different distributor, so they can't. They could, but it'd be a whole logistical nightmare.
I didn't even know. Wait,
yeah.
So that's how that usually happens.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, so the first one is put out.
Business always ruins art, right?
Yeah. I will say the first one is put out by Epic Pictures, who distributes Butt Boy. Fun fact.
Wow, they have a good choice of movies.
And then Cineverse, who owns Bloody Disgusting, who I write for, put out 2 and 3. And hopefully we get to keep going.
Yeah. Incredible movies.
It's crazy how bona fide. It's like, say what you will about them. I really like the second one. That's my favorite of the 3. But even if you hate them all, like you can't deny art is a horror icon now. Like,
yeah.
Whatever metric you measure it by, whether it's popularity, whether it's box office returns, whether it's merchandise, like he's everywhere.
It's crazy how it's honestly one of those things that when I found, I was like, oh, this is something that I love, but I don't think is ever going to get like bigger just because it's so intense.
Yeah.
It's like, it jumps so many
It shocks
levels,
me every time that like it has the audience it does. And I think, part of it for part 2, that was like, I think the trajectory of the series was like, one was like a minor cult thing, but then it hit Netflix, so all of a sudden it was opened up to a wide audience at a time when, Netflix still doesn't have a lot of horror stuff, but at a time they didn't have a lot of original horror stuff either. So I think people just like randomly found it, and it was almost like a dare thing, be like, oh, you have to watch this fucked up movie. And then 2, I think there was a lot of like, there was the people passing out and throwing up and the, amazing publicity. So it was, again, almost like a challenge. So I was curious how 3 would fare, knowing that, maybe its moment had passed, at least in like the public limelight. I know it has a super dedicated fan base, but no, then it did even bigger numbers. It's still, they're re-releasing it for Christmas. It's doing crazy.
I think the 3rd might be my favorite.
Yeah.
I really do. Like, the more I've sat with it and watched it, I do think, I mean, if I love them all 3, but I think it would go 3-1-2.
So I'm 2-3-1 personally.
2-3-1.
Yeah.
I like really, really cheap movies.
Yeah.
Like, that's something about it is like, I don't know. It's like, you ever seen Murder Party?
Oh yeah,
like
that's
that,
a good one. Yeah,
like that. That reminded me so much of the first Terrifier. Like,
yeah, I mean, just made by like a handful of people in a room. Yeah.
Like, I like those style. Like, I was 2, I guess. How old are you?
Just think about this. 34.
34.
That's why I'm so bad at math.
So
35. 35.
So I think I was a little past the Saw. Like, I was Paranormal Activity. I remember I had surgery and I was high on morphine.
Oh shit.
And so I watched Paranormal Activity for the first time, and that shit scared the fuck out of me. That was my like.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No. I mean, that was my kid. My teenage movie. Like,
yeah. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks. Yeah, because I saw the first. Like I said, I was like 15.
Yeah. What were you gonna say about Paranormal?
Paranormal Activity. That's one of my favorite screenings ever. It was again. This was before I was doing them, but it was a word of mouth screening. It was promoted by Bloody Disgusting, which I read religiously as I was becoming more and more of a horror fan. And it was just like I knew nothing about it except like they're saying it's a really scary movie. You go, it's like people are terrified of it, and that was it. And that's my favorite way to go into any movie, just like completely blind, just like have maybe a vague idea of the tone, but nothing about the plot. And yeah, definitely at that time, well, still probably the scariest movie in my opinion. The most effective movie at being scary, I guess, is how I would word it. Obviously, now that there's been 7 of them and so many imitators, it's lost its luster. But I think in its time, looked at on its own, I think that first movie is absolutely terrifying.
That is such a thing with horror, is you have to watch it in the time zone, a time frame that it's in. Because you are right about Paranormal Activity, but if I went back and watched it now, I probably wouldn't get affected the same way.
Yeah.
But it's like, I remember watching like Exorcist as a kid and being like, this shit's goofy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when you're a kid, you're like, this is a goofy movie, but then you have to put in the time frame.
Patton Oswalt has a great bit about showing his kid John Carpenter's Halloween, and he's like, it's a little intense, you might be scared, and like the kid just laughs his way through it, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I love Halloween's my favorite movie, but like, if I was going to show someone their first horror movie, it would not be that, because like I recognize that it's
How old are your kids?
Dated. 6 and 5.
Oh, so you haven't shown?
No. They've seen Coraline. It's probably the scariest thing they've seen. Which actually it's pretty dark.
I was scared when I saw Coraline,
and like really good. That and like Nightmare Before Christmas. Those are 2 like
another scary one.
That's a gateway. I try not to like push my things that I like on them, but like secretly I'm hoping I'm like, yes, come to the dark side.
Yeah. What do you think is a good first movie to show them?
I mean, not for several years, but I wrote an article for Bloody Disgusting a couple years back about this. If I had to show somebody a horror movie for the first time, it would be Scream. I think it's like just the right balance of, if you've never seen a horror movie, it's like a little scary. I mean, as scary as a slasher can be, or suspenseful. But it's also fun. There's like all the references, which you won't get at the time, but I feel like, at least I did, because that was one I saw before, pre-Freddy vs. Jason. And like, I understood that it was having this conversation with horror movies, and it really just made me more intrigued about them. But also, like, still holds up. Like, the killer reveal is great. The cast is like the friggin' hottest cast ever, whatever you're into. Just insanely tight scripts, amazing performances. I think the greatest opening of all time. I could talk Scream all day.
That's your series. I was gonna ask you what series do you think is aged the best?
Aged the best? I have a super soft spot for Halloween, even the bad ones, but I don't think that has aged the best by any means. Probably Friday the 13th is the most consistent. There's a lot of like lesser ones, but like if you just want to watch people get killed with like in creative ways, like it'll deliver on that. Like you know where you're getting. Nightmare on Elm Street, once you get to the later ones, Freddy becomes like a cartoon character. Halloween has a million different bad timelines. Scream has several sequels that I'm not into, but Friday the 13th is like, if you want, you could pick any Friday the 13th at random and like get what you think you're gonna get by putting it on.
What's your subgenre of horror?
Slasher is definitely what got me into things, and I still love all those that I just mentioned.
In a Violent Nature, did you like?
I did. I like that one a lot. I know some people didn't.
Yeah,
I was just like right in the right vibe for it, where it was like I could see people getting sick of like The Walking, but I was just like, I was just like mesmerized by it, really.
Yeah. You know what movie I thought had too much walking, and I hated that no one said it was Men.
I haven't seen that one yet.
I hate Men with a passion, and no, whatever. But In a Violent Nature, I think is a very good. So,
I liked it a lot. Yeah, and they're working on a sequel. I'm not sure if the same formula, assuming if they're going for that same approach again, is going to work. But I really love how that first one. It's like the art house approach to a slasher.
I was watching have you seen any of the behind the scenes of it? They put like a little short doc out on it.
Yeah, because they originally shot like a whole other, or at least most of a whole other movie, then like scrapped it and reshot the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you know the reason why?
They just like weren't happy. They ran out of time, and then like, so they had like what could have been cobbled together as a whole movie, but like was missing like some key parts. And then the guy who's playing the killer didn't want to come back if they were going to do reshoots or something like that. So they were just like, forget it. We'll just do it with a much smaller crew. It was like the money that they had for post-production on the first one, they used to reshoot.
Oh, wow.
The whole movie.
Because I saw the part of them CGI. I realized that the mask was CGI.
No. Was it?
Yeah, like if you watch it, he doesn't have a mask in any of the scenes.
Oh, because there's some where like the front, because they do talk about I guess I haven't watched the behind the scenes stuff, but I listened to it. There's a commentary on the DVD. And they mentioned there's like they had like multiple versions of the mask, and one of them didn't have like the front on it or something. But yeah,
that was a really good kill. But you said slashers.
Yeah, so that was my gateway. I still love them. Anything like up to late 90s, early 2000s, but I feel like with a few pretty notable exceptions, like I can go back and watch any 80s slasher no matter how bad it is and like have a good time with it. But like I can't watch like a 2010 slasher that's like I know isn't going to be, I just feel like nobody's doing anything different anymore. Again, there are exceptions, like every once in a while something like a Terrifier or even like a Freaky or a Happy Death Day that just puts enough of a spin on the formula. I just can't do another, whether it's murder mystery or like Killer Back from the Dead, without something else to like engage me. I've just seen it too many times.
Yeah. Well, how about for modern? What's your favorite?
I don't know if I have a favorite genre, but I'm into like more I guess you'd say cerebral, like more suspense or even art house or like atmospheric, I guess is probably the best word for it, because that could go for anything from, it doesn't have to be art house. It could even something like an Insidious or a Conjuring. I mean, not necessarily my favorite movies, but I will get invested in them because they're well crafted in their approach to horror. And they just have like, that tense atmosphere when they're good.
I can't get into series like The Conjuring.
No?
No, I don't know why. That's Annabelle, right?
Yeah, well, Annabelle's like a spin-off, but yeah, she was in one of the movies.
I don't know why I can't get into that.
I really like, I could say stay away from like, now that's a whole universe. But the
like a Marvel cinematic.
Yeah, pretty much, it is, yeah. But the first two Conjuring movies I think are great.
Well, okay, then like I got my long legs too.
Oh, yes, that's one of my favorites of the year for sure.
I thought that's another one that people really didn't like because of the supernatural aspect to it.
Yeah, and which I think was, from what I've listened to with Osgood Perkins, the director, that was like almost by design. He was like, I'm going to make you think you're watching basically Silence of the Lambs, and then I'm going to kind of pull the rug out from you and like do what I want.
Some like Stephen King shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I sometimes have trouble with the supernatural stuff in terms of believability, particularly if it gets into like fantastical, the fantastical side of it. But no, that one I thought it was so grounded in reality because the first whatever half of it where there's no real inkling of what it is.
Yeah.
I was so invested by that point. Like, I mean, maybe it's not the perfect way to end that story, but I was satisfied.
Yeah. I've been really into practical effects.
Oh, hell
and
yeah.
that's why you asked, do you need to prepare anything? And I was just like, oh, what gory movies have you been watching or that you like? Because I've been really, not even into gore, but I've been really liking, Phil Constant? I can't believe he did Frankie Frico. And he did,
Psycho Gorman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my, Steve Kostansky.
Steve Kostansky. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been really into what
And he
he's
did
been doing.
some of the effects on In Violent Nature.
Yes, that's how I found out
Yeah.
about him. And then I watched Psycho Gorman, which is probably one of my favorite movies.
That's one of my
the
favorite, like
last,
modern, like whatever you call that, horror comedy, whatever
Yeah.
the hell.
Because it's super gory, which I
Yeah.
love. I like practical effect gore.
But it's also almost like a power. It's like the Power Rangers villain versus like some kids and their mutant friend. It's almost like an ET version.
It's like a full-on
it's
comedy.
crazy. Yeah.
But with like the gore
Yeah.
of like
It's like a Toxic Avenger kind of gore, but the humor is, I don't know, a different style of humor. But
yeah.
no, I like that one. I did that one on VHS. I don't know if you've
I
talked
did
about
see
VHS
that,
at some
yeah.
point, but I like that one. I haven't seen Frankie Frico yet, but that's high on my list.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah.
And that's something that like your kids are too young, but it's like
Yeah.
it's like a kids movie basically. It's like a 11-year-old
Yeah.
perfect movie.
I
you know
really
what
want
I
to
mean?
show my kids Gremlins, but there's a scene where they talk about Santa not being real, and they're not ready for that
Oh.
conversation yet, or I'm not ready for that conversation yet. So I was thinking about maybe like, can I edit that scene out? Because otherwise, I feel like they could probably handle Gremlins. There's like a little scary, but
I like the VHS thing you're doing because in the music world, vinyls are huge now. It's been the biggest, and I loved seeing you do the VHS. So
Yeah.
how did you get into that? Or
so it born out of same mentality I had when I started Broke Horror Fan. A buddy of mine, James, he runs a label, I guess you call it, called Witter Entertainment. We initially bonded over our love of pop punk. He's in a band called Scholar. He had, in a past life, I was also like a punk music journalist. So I went and like documented the recording of their debut album. They're based out of New York. And we hit it off, not only both loving pop punk, but also horror movies. So we stayed in touch. We became really good friends. We wrote a couple of short films together. And one day he was like, Broke Horror Fan has like a pretty big following, and it's like there's no money to be made on websites anymore unless you're like a giant website. He's like, you should like merchandise or find some way to like kind of monetize that audience. And I was like, yeah, I've thought about it, but like everything that I covered on Broke Horror Fan, like there was already so many good companies that do, whether it's soundtracks on vinyl or like, screen printed posters or shirts or, anything that I collected, like somebody was already out there doing it way better than I ever could and had been doing it for years. But I was like, what would be really cool is like, this was like just on the cusp, and I'm not the first one to do a modern VHS. There's a guy, Lunchmeat, who's been doing it much longer, who's a friend of mine. But I was like, it'd be really cool to do modern movies on VHS, because this was like you said, vinyl was coming back. And it was just something that people weren't really doing, at least not the movies that made it to VHS at that time were like, movies people made in their backyard, basically, who like wanted to do it for the nostalgia. So the first movie I did was Victor Crowley, which is the fourth Hatchet movie, which great, dumb, fun gore movies. And that was like the newest installment, had just come out. I had just worked with the director on something with his podcast, and the timing worked out. I was like, hey, here's what I want to do. Is there any way we can make this happen? So he put me in touch with their distributor, who like, long story short, we got Victor Crowley out on VHS. It did decently for mostly collectible. I think a lot of people just like the way they look on a shelf as opposed to actually taking them out and playing them, which is fine. But that did pretty well, and it just kind of snowballed from there. One of our, I don't know, it was like our fourth release maybe, was the first Terrifier, and that was another one that did. I mean, that's still sells really well.
How did that come? How did you find the series? How did that?
Terrifier?
Yeah.
So Terrifier is distributed by Epic Pictures. They have a genre arm called Dread, which is part of Dread. There's a weird convoluted like story, but Dread is run by Dread Central, which is a horror website, which I had written for years before, and like still had friends that worked there. And then the guy who was doing the acquisitions for them was a fan of the VHS stuff I was doing, and he was like, "Hey, here's some Dread movies. Let me know if there's anything you want to do." And at this point, Terrifier was already on Netflix, so it had a bit of buzz. I was like, "Oh, I think that would play perfectly on VHS because it seems like the kind of, like you said, it's like low budget. It's like seems kind of grimy and dirty. It's like this is gonna look good on a tape."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it blossomed from there. Then we worked with some bigger distributors. Like I said, we did Psycho Goreman. We've done a lot of movies I love. We did Mandy, which is one of my favorite movies of recent years. Terrifier 2 was a huge seller for us. Eventually made it into Walmart, which was it's still insane to me. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. Was it difficult? Because you were talking about the why they couldn't play 1 and 2 in theaters. Was that difficult for you doing VHSs with the different distributors for 1 and 2?
No, we couldn't do like a box set of the two of them, or we could, but it'd be complicated. But we just have a different agreement with each, a different licensing agreement with either distributor.
Does this, being so like ingrained in it, do you still have the passion for it? Like the.
Yeah, I almost said more passionate than ever, but maybe that's not true. No, if you could see, I'm wearing like a horror shirt and a horror hoodie, and this is like a Fangoria hat. Like it's everything to me.
Yeah.
It is weird because, they say like, if you love what you do, you'd never work a day in your life or whatever, which is true to a point, but it's also like, if you love what you do, you're also just working 24 hours a day, like 7 days a week. But it never really feels like work because I'm always, like I said, I'm doing the writing, I'm doing the VHS stuff, I'm also a filmmaker myself, so I'm trying to get, my own stuff made, just a million projects, and they're all more or less horror centric. And if I'm not working on one, I'm watching one. So it's, it's all consuming.
You said you were making short films with that. Do you work like are you working on something now? How much of that time is that?
I've only done shorts. It's like my dream to make a feature, but I don't want to do, particularly now more than ever, just like a no budget feature that no one's ever going to see. I feel like it's so much time and effort and money and blood, sweat, tears. And I'm such a perfectionist. I don't want it to just be something that goes on whatever Tubi and no one ever sees it, or like self-distribute and no one ever sees it. I'm not worried about like the financial aspect, because I know most indie movies don't make money, but I would never forgive myself if I made something that I was really proud of and just couldn't get the eyes behind it, because there's so much competition right now. So far I've only done shorts. I've made like, I don't know, maybe like a dozen short films. My bread and butter is like the micro short. It's like under 10 minutes, usually 5 minutes or less. Kind of get in and get out. It's easy to share with people, get them to watch. You're not asking somebody to commit 20 minutes or whatever. But yeah, a dream to make a feature eventually. I just need the right
Do you have
project.
You don't have to. Do you have the idea of like, if you could make a feature, this is what it's going to be?
I have like two, neither scripts are complete, but I have two concepts. One is like, I could do this for very little money and potentially it'd be good. And then there's like one that was like, if I had an actual budget, here's what I would want to do.
Because I do, not to bring it back, but I do look at the like Damien Leone, the like, what was that first one, like 2008 or something?
Well, yeah, because he made
first Terrifier.
That's also the because he made, well, he didn't get the funding for it, but he started with a short. Art was in his first short. Then he's like, oh, this character's really good. Then he made another short based around him. Then he made a anthology movie, All Hallows Eve, that Art was like the wraparound. And then he made Terrifier, and then it blew up from there. So that's like, I mean, that's the dream, really. You put out a short, and someone sees it and be like, oh, I want to make a feature version of that. I mean, it's 1 in a million, but...
Do you think the market's too flooded right now?
I wouldn't say too flooded, but it's harder than ever because you're competing with not only every other person making movies, which now everyone can do with the phone in their pocket, but you're also competing with, social media, with the political climate. It's like, everything is a distraction right now. And it's really hard to get someone to sit down and be invested in something.
I know this is kind of like an esoteric question, but what do you think makes a horror movie good? Like, even a shitty one, it's weird. You but you know if it's good or not.
That is
it's
true.
Like,
I said I could watch anything from the 80s because they have a certain, I don't know, a texture, for lack of a better word. They're usually shot on film. I mean, unless they're shot on video. Almost always shot on film. Practical effects. It's just like, I don't know. So everyone was so committed to it. Now where it's like digital, I mean, anyone can do it, which is great because, I mean, if I had to go out and buy film, I probably wouldn't be making stuff very often. But I don't know. The lower barrier to entry, I think, is both a blessing and a curse. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I could define it as one single element because I would, my knee-jerk reaction was like, well, if it's scary, it's a good horror movie, but that's not always true because there's plenty of horror movies I love that are not scary at all. But really, at the end of the day, I'm just looking to be entertained in some way, whether that is being scared, whether that's laughing, whether that's just shutting my mind off and having fun for 90 minutes.
Yeah. Are you into other genres too, or are you mostly a horror
Yeah, I mean, I'm a
guy?
movie guy in general, but horror is definitely,
Yeah.
where
It
it's
is
at.
weird. I'm the same way. I mean, I like dramas or whatever, but it's like we were talking about like busy theaters. Like I'll see the pictures, or my friends will go to see what Wicked. That's the big one now. Every theater's sold out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't even know theater. You know what I mean? Like the movies I go and see are gonna have 6 people in them. You know what I mean? Like I just don't. I guess it's with everything. I don't really like the popular. Maybe I'm a hipster. You know what I mean? Like, I like the nerd cultures. Of
Well, the
different
thing
things,
about the horror is, you don't need a big A-list actor to sell it, to open it, to get butts in seats. I mean, that's why. I mean, Terrifier 2 and 3 both did really well theatrically. No one knew any of that cast. I mean, they maybe knew Art the Clown, but you don't need a huge budget to pull off insane things like Wicked. I'm sure that's crazy, whatever visual effects and musical soundtrack. I think a horror movie, you can make a good one, a good commercially appealing and successful one, for like a fraction of the cost of any other genre.
Which is so strange because you feel like, I don't know. I feel like, why are all these movies costing so much money?
Well,
like,
there's
what
also
the
like,
fuck is happening behind
there's no
the
more.
scenes?
There was just a whole other can of worms. But yeah, there's no more mid-budget movie except in horror. Like there's no like $20 million comedies now. It's like whatever, $70-80 million, which is way too much money for a comedy. Or it's like a small, $1 million indie thing that goes direct to streaming, which is also fine. But there used to, in like pre-2000, there would be a lot of like, like a.
Do you think it's because it's too much of a risk? Like a
Yeah.
medium is too.
I think
it's like you either go all in or nothing.
that's
type
that
shit?
pretty much exactly. That's how I view it. Yeah, and that's why you don't see a lot of theatrical stuff outside of big action or tentpole like superhero stuff, except horror, because horror, like I said, you can sell for way less money.
And because it has its own like radius of money making.
Well, that's also true. I mean, the fan base is
very
so
self-funding.
passionate. Yeah,
It's why I like it as much as rap. Rap is very much that same way.
I can see that
It's
for
like
sure.
Very
yeah.
like
any kind of underground, because even me, like I said, growing up with like punk style stuff, very similar, like sense of community to it.
most people won't
And word of
know what
mouth.
the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, but then you find someone who does, and you're like, oh,
exactly.
you're my people. You're.
But you are right about that middle move. That is too bad. When
Yeah,
do you
'cause
think that
even-
changed?
I think it was streaming, really. You could probably trace it back to even like whatever.
Are you pro streaming or
Yeah, I'm not anti. I mean, I do it all the time. I'm a physical media guy, so if I have the option, I'll usually buy a disc, but I'll usually watch it first on streaming.
Oh, was your house crazy?
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, it's insane. Because I also collect every other I have so many like toys and records and yeah, it's insane. It's a problem.
What's your rarest collectible?
Oh, damn. Let me Let me get back to you on that. I gotta think about it.
All right. What collectible? All right. Also think about what collectible have you spent the most money on?
So here's the thing. I'm
'Cause
also
you are a broke horror
That's the
fan.
thing. I'm also very cheap. So
You're a broke horror fan. I had to ask.
I have stuff that is valuable now, but it was not expensive when I bought it. I'm just a pack rat. Like, and it was like when I have like stuff. Like I said, when I was first getting into horror, it was like mid 2000s, and there wasn't a lot of collectibles. But like what was out there, it was like you'd have to buy it at like Spencer Gifts, and it would be like next to the dildos in the back, and it would like on clearance. So I have like some toys from that era that was like I bought for $10 and now they're worth like $100. But it's not like I can't think of anything that's worth like thousands and thousands.
Do you remember your first collectible you bought? The thing that sparked
yes, it was a Captain Spaulding toy from House of a Thousand Corpses.
Okay, all right.
I think that came out the same year as Freddy vs. Jason, so I was like right as my... And again, that was like Rob Zombie. I was a Rob Zombie fan of his music first, so I was like, I gotta see this guy make a movie.
I like his movies.
Yeah, I like his early... So, I mean, that's, again, sounds like a hipster, but I have not been a fan of anything he's done lately, although I didn't hate his Monsters. A lot of people hated it. I thought it was fine. It was like, what do you want from a Monsters movie? But I really like House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and Lords of Salem, I think are really good.
So the rapper that there's this rapper Conway the Machine who Grammy nominated, worked with everybody, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, and his first album that I ever listened to him, the thing that kind of like started my passion in underground hip hop was the album was called Devil's Reject.
Oh, no shit.
And all of his stuff is inspired by those
All right,
series.
I'm going to check them out.
Yeah, I'll send you an album. It's it's like grimy and it fits that, but it's so funny. He wants to make a movie. His last album was called Slant Face Killer.
Oh, nice.
Because I don't know how many people listening want to know about Conway, but half of his face is he got shot in the back of his head, so half of his face is paralyzed, and so that's where the Slant Face Killer comes from, and he's writing a script.
Oh, that's dope.
I don't know. I probably shouldn't have said that. Anyway, maybe he's writing maybe. Who knows? But I love the world of rap and comedy coming together. First article you wrote when you were a kid. How did you get into the writing?
On forums, when forums were still a thing. It was really just like I was looking to discover more horror movies. Like I said, I went down the rabbit hole. It was like, you watch the obvious stuff. Like I said, Freddy, Jason, Michael. Then you get a little more. You do like Pinhead. You do Leatherface. You do Chucky. And then you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And it was IMDb used to have forums, which have since been closed down because they were so toxic. But I got a lot of recommendations on there and ended up like, I don't know, I would like post, reviews when I was like 15. Wasn't a very good writer and didn't really know what I was talking about. But just kind of, honed it over the years. Like I said, on the IMDb forums, I think, met another, probably kid at the time too, like a teenager. And we started like a blog together, or wrote for a blog together. And then I just kept doing it. It's really one of those things like if you keep at it, you'll get better. Practice makes perfect, I guess. Or maybe not perfect, but at least make some advancements.
When did it start working for you?
I first got paid for it when I was in college, but I was like a news desk on one of the bigger horror sites, and it was like terrible. It was terrible money, but I was still technically getting paid to write about horror movies. So, like that was like the dream. But really, it wasn't until like even after Broke Horror Fan had started. That never really makes a lot of money as a site itself.
Is the site, you're taking it down?
The site, I'm not going to remove it, but I'm not updating it anymore. Yeah. BrokeHorrorFan.com, RIP. No, real quick story for that. I celebrated my 10th anniversary of Broke Horror Fan earlier this year. But I've also been writing more and more for Bloody Disgusting, which is like, for anyone familiar with the horror space, that's like the #1 horror news outlet. And that was really exciting. That started like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, that I started contributing there regularly. And like that's exciting because Broke Horror Fan, I had an audience, but it was small. But Bloody Disgusting, it reaches everyone who is reading horror news is probably reading Bloody Disgusting. So like it was a lot more like I knew there's a lot more eyes on my stuff, which made me both. I'm not nervous isn't the right word, but like put a little more stock into my writing, like a little more. I would say effort because I always put effort in, but like just knowing that there's gonna be people
Your
watching.
price went up.
Yeah, and then also gave me a little more confidence because Bloody Disgusting thinks I'm good enough, and now all these people are reading it. So yeah, anyone who does online journalism, it's very hard to make a living doing that. But yeah, just in the last few years is when it's really settled in for me. And yeah, because of that, because I'm doing so much work for Bloody Disgusting, and I got a few other irons on the fire, I decided to end Broke Horror Fan as a website, which up until I ended on Halloween just seemed appropriate.
And you had it for 10 years.
10 years, yeah, and pretty much daily updates, and just like I said, I didn't really do news or anything. It was just focused on whatever cool horror merchandise, collectibles, memorabilia was being released.
And that's what I liked about your stuff when I first started seeing your videos, is just like your happiness and your passion about it.
It's like I try not to be. I don't do a lot of reviews, and if I do, it's something I like, which maybe pisses some people off because, like, I don't know, they like the salacious, or like they think I like everything, which isn't true. It's just if I don't like something, I just don't talk about it. Like there's too much negativity out there. It's like, particularly in the horror genre, like I said, if someone got a movie made and it's out there, like, more power to them. If it's not for me, maybe it's for someone else.
I agree. It's very rare I'll talk shit about movies, but whatever. Heretic, that last 2/3 pissed me the fuck off.
I haven't seen that one yet either.
You didn't?
No.
Okay, the last 2/3 of that movie made me so mad that I'll never...
I know. It's on digital. I gotta check it out.
I'll never forgive you.
I missed it. Basically everything that came out. This was the busiest Halloween season ever for both my personal life, going to events, personal life, and writing stuff. So I haven't seen a lot of the new releases from basically like August. It started, like the Halloween season starts earlier and earlier now. Yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy. You're like, but that makes sense. And you have a family who probably wants to go celebrate all that.
They don't really want to know.
Yeah, you can't watch your fucking...
I do want them to get a little bigger so I can bring them to a convention, though, because I think the kids will get a kick out of like...
Oh, yeah.
Like
I went to my first one.
And stuff. Which one? I was probably there.
Scream.
Oh, Silver Scream?
Silver Scream.
Yeah.
You were there?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's, I would say, the best convention in New England right now.
And I didn't even know who Ice Nine Kills was before.
I was going to say, when you were mentioning the rapper, I was like, yeah, because Ice Nine Kills is doing a similar thing in the, whatever you call their genre, metalcore.
People loved them.
It's insane.
I truly did, not to be rude, they're huge, they're big, but like I didn't know who they were before the festival.
Well, that's the thing, it's like,
the convention.
It's almost like ICP, where it's like, the average person walking on the street couldn't name one of their songs, but like to their fans, they're like the biggest band in the world, and like they mean everything to them. And it's awesome. It's so cool that they're using not only to spread awareness of cool horror movies, but also doing the things like Silver Scream, which is like kind of paying it back to, I feel, because Spencer, the singer, he modeled that convention off Rock and Shock, which used to be in Worcester. And that was my first convention, so I was super nostalgic because this year they were back in Worcester. I can't say enough good things about them as what they're doing for the genre, because they're really kind of ushering in the next generation, I feel, of horror fans.
Yeah, and it does. We were talking about the money and how it keeps circulating. Going there, I was like, oh, I see. Horror actors can probably survive off of parts way more than other actors doing these conventions and things.
Yeah, you don't see...
I'm not pocket watching, but I was like, these guys are making really good money off of meeting fans and stuff. Off a movie that probably didn't make as much money.
They definitely make more in a weekend than they probably made filming whatever Friday the 13th part 30 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, which is I'm so happy about. Yeah. Like, I'm happy for them, because I don't think becoming an artist, you probably know this, becoming a journalist, no one tells you how to make money.
Right, yeah, it's up to you to figure.
And then when you're in it, you realize, oh, no one
exactly. Yeah.
But then when you see that,
it's
I think
unspoken secret.
I think it is, but I think it gives, like, this might sound dumb, but I feel like it, like, gives kids hope.
No, it gives me
going
hope.
To that and being like, wow, these people are making living off of something that they wanted to do, and they didn't have to fucking fall into the formula of a big budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what I love about, I don't know if you went to any of the panels there.
I went to them.
My favorite thing, the moderator there, who's very good, at the beginning of every panel or most panels, he'll ask the audience like who's at their first horror convention, and particularly the first couple of years. Now because I think this was the third year, the Silver Scream, but it would be like 90% of the room would be raising their hands because they were just there to see Ice Nine Kills, or because they're fans of Ice Nine Kills, and now their world's opened up to this whole other community and scene, and it's, I don't know, yeah, it's like I said, it gives me hope for the next generation.
Yeah, and it was cool seeing like all the cast, like whatever, seeing the Terrifier cast all together right before it blew up.
Yeah, that was right before
like,
3. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So like in my mind, I'm like, damn, I got to like talk to Damien right before it blew up, which is just a cool thing as a fan. If I was younger, if I was like 16, 17, wanting to get into horror, and I saw something like that, and I met them, and then this movie becomes big, I mean, that must spark so much creativity.
I think it does, yeah. I mean, that's the other thing about horror fans. I mean, they're so passionate and creative. It's the same thing happened with me. I was like, I love horror movies, now I want to make them. Like, that's the next evolution of being a horror fan, I feel like. And it's not necessarily like that if you're a,
But you went into journalism
rom-com.
over filmmaking first?
That was my original approach, yeah. Like I said, I was in music journalism, and then I started doing the horror stuff, and I did my first set visit. There was this was MySpace to date this story. I saw that there was this local film being produced with like a bunch of, now every indie horror movie that you'll find on like Tubi has like a bunch of washed up, I don't know, I shouldn't say washed up, a bunch of horror actors of yesteryear.
Yeah.
But at the time, that was not the norm at the time. That this was like 2006 or so, 7, 8, somewhere around there. But this movie had like Tony Moran, who's the unmasked Michael Myers in the original Halloween. Tony Todd, who was Candyman. PJ Souls was also in the original Halloween. A bunch of horror actors who like I looked up to. And they were filming in the Boston area, so I messaged them on MySpace. I was like, "Hey, I have this horror blog. Could I come out and like do a little set visit?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure." Because they were indie. They had they were self-funding. There was like they could use all the publicity they could get. And I went out there, and I was like, I remember leaving that day, or not even leaving, being on set, watching them shoot, and I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. I want to do this. Like, these are my people. Like, writing about movies is great, and it's, a lot more feasible to do regularly. But really being on set is where I feel most, like, happy, I guess.
What's
fulfilled.
Cool? What set have you been on that felt the most fulfilling?
Terrifier 3.
Oh, you got to be on set?
I got to be on set. Yeah, I did a set visit for Bloody Disgusting. So I went to Long Island. Was it Long Island or Staten Island? Long Island. For anyone who's seen it, the bar scene with Daniel Roebuck in the Santa costume.
Shout out Sienna Hubert Ross, great comedian.
Oh yeah, there you
was
go.
In that scene.
I wasn't there her day, but yes. And it was like, it was cool because, like I said, art's a horror icon. There's no denying it. Like, just like, I'm trying to think of like a kid in the 80s who got to go to like the Friday the 13th 2 set or something like that would be like vaguely equivalent, even though that was a studio movie. It was just like, wow, I'm seeing Art the Clown like in person on camera. I mean, I know he does like conventions appearances in the makeup, but this is part of the film. That really blew me away. Most of the other stuff I do, it's all like,
What did you get to see filmed?
It was that bar scene where they killed.
Where they freeze Santa Claus.
They didn't. They actually ran out of time. They like started that. They did this. They shot Clint Howard and the bartender, and then like they had like the interaction with Santa, where he's like calling him Clowny and begging for his life and stuff.
How did they do the gunshot?
It's a weird thing because this was, shortly after the Rust incident with Alec Baldwin. So they have, a fake gun it's like a rubber gun that doesn't shoot at all. And then they have, so they shoot just the background with nothing in it. They shoot Art holding the gun, pretending to shoot it. And then they had somebody, and when Art is there, they had a camera flash to do the muzzle flash. And then they had somebody literally just like flicking bullet casings, and then they composite it all in post, and that looks like it's shooting. And then for the other side, I don't think for either of those gunshots, I don't think you saw the actual, I'm trying to think if you see it actually go in, or you just see the hole. I think the hole's already on their head, and then they just have it. I think Clint Howard was on the floor, and they just pumped it out from under him. But I did get to see. I saw Daniel Roebuck's like head that they were working on, where he gets like the I don't know, spoiler alert, but part of his face gets frozen and knocked off. Yeah, I mean, it was just, I was a kid in a candy store. And what was amazing about that is it's still an independent movie technically, but it was, several $1 million budget. It wasn't like their early ones that were just a few $100,000. But the same, very much felt like other independent sets I've been on. It was still, Damien's the director, but he's still, being pulled in a million different directions. It's no matter what budget level you're at, there's still a certain, like, I don't know, tenacity, ferocity, hunger, I guess, that like you just want to be in the middle of it. You know what I mean? He wasn't off in Video Village somewhere, like watching.
And the movie is definitely better because of that.
Yeah, I 100% think so. I think that's what made the series to begin with. It's that homespun, kind of tactile feel to it all.
Yeah, that's really cool that you got to be on set for that.
If
Any other cool set stories?
Not a set, but the coolest thing that ever happened to me one of the coolest things that came out of doing Broke Horror Fan and like those screenings and stuff was Warner Brothers flew me out for, I know you're not a Conjuring fan, but for Annabelle, I think it was the second Annabelle Comes Home. They flew me out to LA to do press, to like interview the cast and director and stuff, and go to a screening out there. And that was just, it was just awesome to go. It was my first time in LA, and it was like, had a free flight there and got to visit the Halloween locations, was something I always wanted to do while I was out there.
I feel bad about talking shit about the movies now.
It's okay. They're doing okay. They're doing okay without you, all right? No offense.
Yeah, no, they're doing perfectly fine. That's so funny. So we'll wrap up soon, but what are your lists of gory movies?
Okay, yeah.
Your rarest collectible.
Oh shit! Oh man, I forgot about that. I was hoping you did too. Okay, gory movies. Like I said, I'm more. I think if it's a gory movie, I'm usually into more like the slapstick, like for humor, as
like
opposed.
Dead Alive.
Yes, that'd be. Definitely one I was going to mention.
Some of the best kills I've ever seen in my entire life are in that movie.
Yeah.
And I never watched it because I don't like Peter Jackson. Well, whatever. I just
he's also doing okay.
He's doing. I don't mean. It's not that I don't like them. It's just like there was. So I didn't see it for a long time, and then I watched it, and I was like, I'm an idiot. This is exactly what I like.
Yeah.
When he punches through the girl's head, and the fist comes out her mouth,
and he made that for like whatever, like. Few $1,000s and like a roll of duct tape. It's like insane what he
and he's beating people up with her butt. Like there's so many good kills.
So that's what when it comes to it's funny because the type of horror that I'm normally drawn to, like I said, is more atmospheric. It's less humorous and usually less gory, but that's not always the case. But when it comes to if I want to see like some splattery stuff, I want like the fun. I want like in Evil Dead 2, Reanimator's probably my favorite horror comedy. In terms of gore, they're not gore movies, but Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, the originals, I think are just phenomenal pieces of filmmaking in the horror space, both because of the gore and because of the storytelling. I was going to mention the Hatchet movies because those are super fun. Those are, if you like the Terrifier movies and haven't seen those, they're much more comedic, but dedicated to practical effects and a lot of cool cameos from horror icons.
I've never seen the Hatchet series.
I think you get a kick out of them.
My friend, shout out 1,000 Words, who's my co-host on my live stream. He was just telling me about. We were watching all the trailers for Victor Crowley, which is very funny. Small world. I think
Hatchet 1 has one of the best like practical effects kills. One of my favorite practical effects kills.
Oh, really? All right, I'll watch it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And then if you like that one, you like the sequels. If not, you probably won't like it. It's relatively similar in terms of tone, but the sequels have lower budgets, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like one of the first one came out at like the DVD boom, like Blockbuster was still around, and then each subsequent movie is made for like half of what the previous one was, just because
that's like I watched Toxic
industry.
Avenger, and I watched the second one the other day, and it made me not like the first one. How bad the second one was.
Yeah, because 2 and 3, I think they shot back to back, or then they were just gonna be like one long movie, and like I don't know, some convoluted story. No, but I mean, and like The Fly, I think is some of the best practical effects, and I mean, not what I would classify as a gore movie per se, but the gore in it, I think, is so well done. Are you talking about something when I think about a collectible?
All right. I collect One Piece. I don't know if you've ever watched One Piece. One Piece.
I never watched it, but I know.
I have so many collectibles. My studio is just like rap stuff and One Piece stuff. That's all
I appreciate that.
So I have some pretty rare One Piece collectibles. I don't have any. I wanted to get the Art the Clown popcorn, but they didn't. It was for pre-order.
Yeah, I ordered one. I still don't have one. It's not coming until like January.
Out of principle, I
respect that.
But if they had it.
Yeah, if it was just right
AMC,
there. Yeah.
I would have bought fucking 6 of them.
Yeah, I feel like that was like. I mean, yeah, I think the whoever makes in charge of those decisions, the theaters, I think they didn't realize how big it was going to be until it was too late, until they saw the fan demand.
Shudder, don't they? They should know.
Now that's a good point. Yeah,
they should know.
No, I think that's a different AMC because that's the AMC channel, which I think is different than the AMC theater. But I'm not.
Wait! You're blowing my mind. There's 2 different AMCs.
I'm like, I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they're 2 different. They're 2 separate entities.
I didn't even know. Like Fox, like how there's multiple.
Yeah,
Fox.
yeah.
I didn't even know.
But Fox,
that.
I think, at the end of the day, Disney owns all that shit. But I think the AMC theaters and AMC network are 2 entirely separate. Just happen to have the same initials.
That's so funny.
I could be wrong. Now I want to like look it up and make sure.
I want to
because
AMC gets really good screenings for horror movies. So I'm like,
no, I think that's just a coincidence. They're just like the biggest chain out there, so they can they can afford to take some risks, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, you just blew my mind. You just blew my mind with that. Because I was like, AMC owns Shudder. That's a crazy. Or they started it. I was like, that's a crazy thing for them to do. But
no, because you think if it was the same one, they should just be playing all the Shudder movies
all the time.
Yeah. At least like they could do like a weekly thing or something. But no, yeah.
There should be like a horror theater. I don't get why that is.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't get why that's not like a thing.
I think just theater is such a risky investment right now. Like I said, just because it's so easy just to stream stuff, and if you're not in, you need to be in like a college town or something, and then real estate is hard to come by and expensive, so it's just like I don't know. Yeah, a lot of things working against you, but I mean, I'd love to see it.
A horror theater would be pretty cool.
Let's do it. Let's start.
Yeah, all right. You heard it here. You thought of it yet?
No, goddamn, I was stalling.
We can think, and I'll just edit out the silence. Or one that you like the most. You don't have to have like the rarest, but is there something that's the rarest to you, like something that you feel the most special about?
I haven't added to it in a long time, but what was my prized possession as a budding horror fan, bringing it back, it's this Devil's Rejects script book. They put it out. It was like exclusively at Hot Topic in 2005 or whatever. Came pre-signed by Rob Zombie. Who knows if he actually signed it, but whatever. But I actually learned a lot reading the script in terms of like how a script is written. And then Rock and Shock, which was the convention I mentioned, they had, the first year I attended, they had a Devil's Rejects reunion. Reunion, it was like came out the year before, but they had a bunch of the cast members there. So I got that signed and then have added more names. So it's probably signed by like 20 different people from the movie.
Oh, wow.
So that's a big one for me. Also have a Dawn of the Dead poster signed by George Romero.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And you know it rare because it's one of a kind because I made it, but I got to photograph a John Carpenter concert. So when he did his first tour, he didn't come to New England, and I didn't know if he would ever tour again, so I went to the New York City stop. And got a photo pass to cover it for Broke Horror Fan. I wrote about it, and so I blew up a picture. Like it's like on a canvas print. So I got like an 18 by 24, and then the next time I saw him, I had him sign it. So that's hanging above my bed. So that's
pretty cool.
A cool thing.
That's pretty cool.
John Carpenter's favorite director ever. Big inspiration.
Yeah.
Also my favorite musician, probably. So
really,
yeah, I love.
You know what? I've never heard his music.
Really? Well, if you've ever seen his movies, he scores most of them. But I like now he's been doing these. He calls them lost themes albums, but it's horror-ish music, but not for a movie. So it's a little more, I don't know, musical for lack of a better. Like Halloween, I love that score in the movie, but listening to it without the movie is sometimes a little jarring.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's just like, I don't know, if you're into like synthy 80s stuff and like creepy vibes, I highly recommend it.
Man, thank you so much for doing this.
Dude, thank you for having me. This was so
hour.
fun. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, dude, thank you. Honestly,
this was
I haven't
awesome.
been
This was
able to
great,
like fan out on a podcast in a while, and
Dude,
it's
anytime.
just been cool talking to you, and I'm happy we got to meet.
Yeah, let's do it again. I'll be
Anytime.
more prepared next time.
Anytime. And it's so fun because I'm from the Cape, but it's like where you are is like it's not helpful.
I'm nowhere near anything. Yeah, middle of nowhere at South Shore.
Last movie to ask if you've seen, Hundreds of Beavers.
You know, I have not, but
Best comedy I've seen in the last 5 years.
I'm glad to hear
For real,
that
for
because
real.
I'll try to keep this convoluted relationship short. But Bloody Disgusting is owned by Cineverse as their parent company, and they also own, I don't know, they have a bunch of streaming services, including Screambox, which is their horror streaming service, screambox.com. But one of their other arms of distribution put out Hundreds of Beavers. So
really?
it's vaguely related, yeah.
Oh, because it's straight up
But we have talked about doing a VHS for it.
Oh, you should.
No promises, but
watch it.
I still need to see it. Yeah.
I would love for you. I would love, because as I say it, I'm like, I would consider it a horror. It's not horrific at all.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, I've heard it's just like a fun movie anyway. So like, I'm down.
But it's
I'm
like
game.
intense. It's like
Like
heart racing,
weirdly,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like it gets your heart going.
I'm
even
into
if
that.
it's. Yeah, that was such a good one. I could just keep naming Meatball Machine.
Is that the Japanese one?
Yeah.
I don't remember anything about it, but I've seen like
right.
I went through a phase where it was like a lot of those weird was it Machine Girl and like
The director just followed me who did like Tokyo Gore Police.
Oh, Tokyo Gore Police, that was another big one. Yeah.
But I don't know if he speaks English. I wanted to
if he follows you, you don't post in any other language but English, right?
He followed me today, and I was like, if I could interview
you should reach out. Yeah,
that would be
cool.
pretty cool. But anyway, where can people find you?
Broke Horror Fan on most of the social media, or look up my name. It's hard to spell, Alex DiVincenzo. But yeah, just Google Broke Horror Fan. You'll find me.
Read his stuff on Bloody Disgusting. Go to his events.
Thank you.
If you're in Massachusetts, and if you like horror, you better be following him. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Yeah.